Well, time for us to catch up on our final edition, or the Friday edition, should I say, of Current Affairs. We always have them here, though, because that is one of our core pillars. Remember that. Mounting complaints on acts of discrimination against black people lodged with the Property Practitioners Regulatory Authority, the PPRA, have spurred the entity to hold nationwide public hearings into the matter. So the agency, which launched this month, replacing the old Estate Agency Affairs Board, says it has received numerous complaints about racism in the property sector, including where black people were denied renting premises because the owner was said to prefer whites. In some instances, according to the agency, CEO Mamodupi Mushala, black people are simply told that the premises are up for rental are no longer available. However, when they send a white friend to inquire about the same rental, the white person is not only granted access to view the rental property, but also given a lease to conclude. Mushala said that these are some of the written complaints the PPRA received about racism practices in the property sector. Agents have raised concern about concerns around acts of discrimination in the context of work allocation. They have complained that where they are employed in predominantly white-owned agencies and franchises, stock houses for sale, rentals, etc., are not equally allocated between blacks and white agents, said Mushala. They also are not allocated stock in the financially affluent areas, but are actually allocated in the less affluent areas. This is not only a barrier to entry, but also affects economic activity of black estate agents. The hearing into racism in the property sector will take place in all 9 provinces, starting in Bloemfontein in the Free State on the 28th of February and ending in Pietermaritzburg, KZN, on the 31st of March. Mushala said the majority of complaints received were from members of the public and estate agents and or property practitioners. Where black estate agents want to access stock that is in a Gulf estate, they are required to pay registration fees that are high, which they cannot afford. This is another barrier to entry for most black estate agents. She said the PPRA has commenced investigations and the inspectors have interviewed both the victims and the discriminatory practices and the alleged perpetrators. The outcomes of these interactions painted a disturbing picture that the racism in the property sector is more widespread than anticipated. We therefore decided to initiate a process to solicit public inputs from those in the industry who have encountered racism. Through adverts on social media and print media, many submissions were made. We then decided to commence on a process of public hearings, but then we discovered that some of those who made submissions wanted to be heard in camera. We are therefore arranging facilities for in-camera hearings. Public hearings will commence on this. Public hearings will commence once this has been finalized. Post the public hearings, the PPRA will make findings and recommendations with action items on how to deal with the issue of racism in the property sector. An interesting outlook, and definitely one that needs to be addressed if we are to say that all economic activity belongs to all of us. The Spur Corporation's earnings jumped 119% into the 59 million in the 6 months ended since the 6 months ended 31st of December 2021. The franchise restaurant group posted its half-year results on Thursday. Spur reported a strong increase in foot traffic to its restaurants in the last few months of the last year as the lockdown restrictions eased. The group revenue grew by 40.3% to 441 million. The brands owned by Spur include Panarottis, Rocco Mamas, and John Dory's. The group declared an interim dividend of 49 cents per share. Growth was driven mainly by the Spur brand. Bruce Whitfield asks if they are close yet to a pre-pandemic takings as he chats to Val Nicholas, the group CEO of the Spur Corporation. Val Nicholas says, as a group, Spur is about 9.5% short of the 2019 in terms of restaurant sales. He says, we've managed fairly well with the additional foot count. Fortunately, most of our franchisees have also invested in Perspex screens between the tables. So, Some recovery coming back for one of the household brands that have kept this nation smiling from ear to ear for many a birthday, many an anniversary, many an outing, many a breakfast, many a you name it. There's something there for you there. South African students in the city of Kharkiv, Ukraine, woke up to the sound of falling bombs on Thursday. They are stranded with Russian invasion of the country, bringing air travel and public transport in the country to a halt. While the South African embassy is attempting to arrange visas to other countries for the students, transport out of their increasingly volatile areas remains a problem. We literally woke up with the sound of bombs. We could hear them from our apartment. That's what woke us up. We're 30 minutes away from the borderline where these attacks are happening. We don't feel safe at all. These are among the first words that South African medical student Kurula Mushwana spoke with the Daily Maverick, contacted her on Thursday. Mushwana, with fellow medical students Charmaine Mnisi and Voltari Mtonga, live in Kharkiv, Ukraine, not far from the Russian border. No airplanes are traveling in and out of the Ukraine, said Mushwana, nor are there trains to transport them to cities in safer areas. Militia gather outside the city hall prior to deploying in defensive positions on 24th of February. Russia began a large-scale attack on Ukraine, with explosions reported in multiple cities and far outside the rest of eastern regions held by Russian-backed rebels. We're not okay, emphasized Mushwana. We really feel like we're stuck, and we really feel we just want someone to hear us out so that the government or someone like that can try and help us at this point. The city has been quite calm in the lead up to the invasion, said Mtonga. While there are concerns about Russian troops massing on the border, people are trying to live their lives as normally as possible. Waking up to the sound of bombs and missiles landing nearby was a shock. The thing is, there are explosions and bombs that are happening in different places around the Ukraine. It's not like we can pack our bags right now and decide to go to a particular area. In every single stop that we must go through, especially through the major cities, Kiev, there's also bombings there that are happening. So it's almost like we don't know where we are supposed to go at this point. What is the embassy saying about this? Well, the South African ambassador to the Ukraine, Andrei Grunewald, has been in contact with the students, asking for their passport details to arrange Polish visas for them. A register of students was initially developed during the COVID-19 pandemic to allow the embassy to evacuate and assist South Africans during the crisis, said Grunewald. With the situation heating up in Ukraine, the system is being revived. We have some discussions with the Polish ambassador in the Ukraine, and he agreed to provide if we provide the names and passports, as well as the posts of the students are intending to cross. They are going to share that with their border guards or the border personnel, then we will be able to get them across the border. Grunewald said he had been in discussions with the Romanian ambassador to arrange for students to apply for visas at Romanian border posts. However, Mnisi pointed out that even if they receive Polish visas, she and her fellow students do not have the means to reach the border or even leave Kharkiv. It's a form of assistance, but it's not assisting, because what's the point of getting a visa if you can't get in there? She questioned. Very, very scary times for those who are stuck in a foreign country. 28 minutes now after 9 a.m. Tributes are pouring in for the fallen rapper Ricky Rick after the news of his death. The rapper's family confirmed his passing in a statement and said, the family of South African Ricky Rick, the South African artist Ricky Rick, with profound sadness this afternoon confirmed his untimely passing. Son, husband, father, brother, and uncle Ricky Mercado sadly passed away in the early hours of the morning of the 23rd of February in Johannesburg. The cause of his death is still unknown. Mzansi has been in disbelief after the news broke, with friends, fans, and members of the local entertainment community sharing their condolences. In 2020, Ricky Rick spoke openly about suffering from chronic depression on an episode of his podcast series Lab Live with Younger Chief after his dad died. He says, I lost my father at a time when I needed the help. I lost him at a time where I needed that voice. A lot of people don't understand that you can never replace the voice of a father. When he passed away, I was so angry, so upset, he said. sharing that he would swing between depression and anger, which would manifest in his music, and he would take it out on others in the industry. My depression took form of being angry at guys who were doing it. Ricky burst on the local scene with his with his debut album Family Values, released in 2015, that spawned such hits as Sondela Amantombazane and Boss Zonke. The album went on to be certified platinum by the Recording Industry of South Africa, which is RISA, selling over 50,000 units. Since then, he has become a fixture in the local music scene, starting his own label, Cotton Club Records, and also launching Cotton Fest, which is set to make its return this year, following a one-year break in 2021 due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Ricky was also lauded as a fashion darling, breaking many barriers in the way he dressed, gracing the covers of GQ and Grazia and many more. In 2019, the prominent music figure announced his partnership with cognac brand Remy Martin for the Remy Producers SA series and has been a brand ambassador ever since. May his soul rest in peace. After initially calling on both sides to exercise restraint, South Africa has taken a strong stance against Russia's invasion of the Ukraine, urging it to withdraw its forces. The South African government has surprised the international community by calling on Russia to withdraw for its forces from the Ukraine. Before that, Pretoria had remained silent on the crisis in the Ukraine, or had adopted an even-handed approach, calling on both sides to seek a peaceful diplomatic solution to their dispute, as though Russia and Ukraine were equal culprits in the conflict. But on Thursday, after Russian troops rolled across the Ukrainian border, Pretoria issued a statement much closer to what many had demanded. South Africans call on Russia to immediately withdraw its forces from the Ukraine in line with the United Nations Charter, which enjoins all member states to settle their international disputes by peaceful means, in such a manner that international peace and security and justice are not endangered. The Department of International Relations and Cooperation said South Africa had until Thursday been constrained by its joint membership with Russia in the BRICS Forum, its strong bilateral relations with Russia, and its suspicions about NATO expanding its powers into Europe. Last but not least, further afield in our beautiful but troubled continent of Africa, the 4 soldiers of the French army operating under the banner of the United Nations, arrested 3 days ago in the Central African Republic and accused on social networks of having wanted to assassinate the head of state, were released on Thursday. The 4 staff members of the MINUSCA, which is the UN mission in the Central African Republic, arrested at the Bangui airport, have just been released. The 4 soldiers of the French Army Legion, Italian, Romanian, Italian, and Bulgarian nationality, had been apprehended by security forces while wearing fatigues, heavily armed, and wearing their MINUSCA badges aboard an unmarked armored vehicle on Monday in the front of Bangui airport. The French embassy and the UN immediately indicated that they were members of the close security of the chief of staff of the UN peacekeeping force, General Stéphane Marchenois, whom they had just dropped off to catch a plane to Paris. But immediately, photographs of the arsenal well laid out on the ground, as well as their identity papers, like the video of their arrest, had been widely circulated on private accounts on social networks, some accusing them of having wanted to assassinate the president of the nation, who had just landed in Bangui. That's where we end it for the moment.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's see what all the fuck is about.
From the states of Africa, we've got you covered.